Hello everybody, my name is Ann Théato and welcome to the Psychic Matters podcast, episode number 61, giving you all a very warm welcome from Ireland, which is where I am at the moment over in the beautiful county of Tipperary, visiting my mum, whom I haven't seen for 3 years due to the pandemic. So we've been doing an awful lot of catching up, which has been a lot of fun so far. I'm actually teaching in Dublin this weekend. So if anyone is listening and wants to come along, please do join us on Saturday 9th, Sunday 10th of April. I'll be teaching alongside spiritual medium Susan Hughes, who has invited me to join her on a program called The Extraordinary Medium, where we will be exploring the altered states of consciousness, discovering how you can elevate your mediumship from ordinary to extraordinary. So if you'd love to come along and join us, we'd love to see you. It takes place at the Maldron Hotel in Newlands Cross, Clondalkin. All details of how to sign up are on my website, antheato.com. Thank you to all those who have left me a written review. I'm so grateful. We've had a review in from somebody called Burton Girl who says, "Wonderful podcast. I've met a lot of talented mediums through this podcast, including Anne herself, and I highly recommend it." So thank you so very much for leaving that review for me. She also says, actually, great podcast. Love the interviews and the guests and interviews. I've learned so much from this podcast. So thank you very much, Burton Girl. I also had a written review from Australia from someone called Nick 25H, who says, "Love this podcast. So glad I found it. Thank you, Anne." Well, thank you for writing that for us all the way from Australia. And then we had Glasto Merlia from Great Britain, who says, "Really great to listen to like-minded people sharing their stories. Thank you." And we had a review from Glasto Merlia from Great Britain, who says, "Really great to listen to like-minded people sharing their stories. Thank you." So that's just so lovely. Thank you very much for that. And then we had two others, actually. One from Fiona MacDonald, who says, "I love listening to Anne's podcasts, and she does have a lovely voice, which communicates lots of warmth and sincerity. So many interesting episodes, and I'm learning so much about mediumship and spirituality from them. Love to listen while I'm doing jobs in the kitchen." Oh, thanks, Fiona. That's really kind of you. Thank you for your lovely warm comments. And then Adam Berry left a beautiful review for us saying, "Love Psychic Matters podcast. Wonderful and varied guests. A wealth of knowledge and experience from each podcast. I love listening whilst commuting at work and love the teaser snippets and build up to each guest. Anne has such a silky, beautiful voice too. Well done on your progressive success with climbing the podcast charts, and amazing. Thank you for your contribution of life and soul." Adam Berry. And of course, Adam was one of our guests on the podcast, so you must actually go and listen to his beautiful episode called Life and Soul. I'm so grateful to you for leaving those written reviews for me. And if you'd like to leave a written review as well, please visit podchaser.com/psychic matters and you can leave a review very easily there for me. Thank you so much for taking the time to do that. This week's episode on animal communication will transform your relationships with your animal companions. My guest is Beth Lee Crowther. She's a professional animal communicator, a psychic medium and a Reiki master, and she will teach you effective telepathic communication techniques that you can use to conduct meaningful, non-verbal conversations with your pets. I hope you love this episode. I'm very excited to introduce to you today psychic medium, animal communicator, and Reiki master, Beth Lee Crowther. Beth, welcome to Psychic Matters.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Anne. I'm looking forward to chatting with you today.
It's such a pleasure. It's great that you're here. Thank you so much for making time in your schedule. I know you've got an incredibly busy diary work-wise. Tell us what you're up to this week, Beth, because I know that you're on radio, television, newspapers and magazines. You're a published author. You're working on a new book. There's so many areas we want to go into, but where are you this week?
Well, lots of things have been going on. I'm always preparing every week for my weekly radio show, which is called Spiritual Calling on Pulse Talk Radio. And you know, Anne, when you are interviewing guests, it's always a lot of preparation and a lot of things to do. So I try and be as organised as I can be, but I'm not a very organised person. So it takes quite a lot of my energy. And I'm looking forward to my new book coming out on April the 14th, which is all about how you can learn to be a pet psychic yourself. Because I've been working with animals and doing animal communication for many years, well, really, since I was a child. So that's been different for me because I've been going through a publishing process ready for a launch. So I'm just kind of keeping my diary a little bit open just in case I've got to zip off anywhere and potentially do some interviews and things like that. So I'm a little bit apprehensive about everything this week and not really knowing what's coming up for me. But I do try and come out of my comfort zone as much as possible because I believe that when you work in the psychic industry and when you do spiritual work, it can be sometimes you have to be a little bit brave and courageous to really speak your mind and your truth and to really show everybody, you know, what you can do. It's all right saying it, but it's about going out there and demonstrating what you can do. And that does require you to come out of your comfort zone. So often when these things are about to come up, I feel a little bit nervous and a bit worried, but no, and I just think, no, I've got to do it. I've got to do it, you know. So it's that kind of mode that I'm in at the moment. And I've been very blessed and very lucky because my pet psychic work has taken me all over the place on TV, radio, and in newspapers and magazines. And I've just been so blessed that I've been able to have a book that's just ready to be launched. So it's very exciting at the moment for me.
Yeah, that sounds like a really, really brilliant week. It's the sort of week I would love to be having in my schedule. But Beth, tell us a little bit. I know that you're under media contract, so at the moment you cannot really disclose the content of the book necessarily, but tell us the title of it. I know it's being launched on April the 14th, and tell people where they'll be able to purchase that, and then maybe you can teach us some of the methods on this podcast of how we might learn how to communicate with our own pets.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's called Everything You Need to Know to Become a Pet Psychic. And if you just Google that, it'll come up on Amazon, W.H. Smith, Waterstones, and all the usual book places. And you can read about sort of what's involved in the book. And there's exercises and things like that for people to go off and practice. Because I believe that if you're an animal lover and that you're open-minded, that you are also able to get into your mind how you can communicate with your own pets. And I think so many people are already doing that because they are already bonded with their animals. And it's not difficult to do. I've always found it easy. And as a child growing up, and I had lots of different pets and animals, and I was obsessed with animals, and I still am. And I just thought it was normal to understand the thoughts and the feelings from your pets. I just thought that was part of owning an animal. And I could literally hear like a voice in my mind coming from that animal, you know. And if we had a rescue animal, I would get sort of pictures in my mind of what had gone on for them. I'd be very empathetic and I would like hear their words. But I just thought that was normal, that if you've got an animal, that was part of it. And of course, when you're a child, it's just put down to a vivid imagination from your parents or your teachers. And as I got older, and I was always desperate to have my own horse, and I drove my parents mad for a pony. And of course, there's such a huge financial undertaking, it never happened. And I was thinking about this morning, Anne, and I don't know if anybody remembers, W.H. Smith used to run a competition to win a pony. Do you remember that?
Exactly the one, and the advert, and when you post off your application form, the post box made a little
Yeah.
Do you remember?
When you think about that now, it seems ridiculous that actually that was a competition to win a pony, doesn't it? You know, a live animal. But of course, I was just in a fantasy that I could win this pony, and I would get my mom to get the form and the application every year, you know, and of course it never happened. It wasn't until I was in my 20s that I actually was privileged enough to have a horse of my own. And what happened then was, although I'd got dogs and cats and had rabbits and various animals, that when I was back with horses again, and I quickly ended up with another, well, there were two ponies. I ended up with the first pony. She was lonely, so I went and got another pony, a little rescue pony. And when I got back into it, all those sort of feelings that I had about hearing their voice, what had gone on for them, the pictures of their background, how they were feeling, if there was any aches, pains, health issues. Obviously, I'm not a vet, but picking up on those vibrations, if you like, that came back really strongly when I'd got these two ponies. And consequently, at the time, a few years on, when the internet came in and somebody was trying to teach me how to use the internet for the first time and how you could go onto a search engine. And I think I went onto something called Ask Jeeves at the time. And they said, you've got to look for something. And I was like, well, what can I look for? And I had this thought, does anybody else hear their pets talking in their mind? I wonder if anybody else does that. So I started searching for things like that. And to my utter surprise, it was on the internet and it was called Animal Communication. I thought, oh my gosh, it's got a title. There's other people that do this. A lot of people in America were doing it professionally. And I was like, I can't believe that, you know, that this is a thing. And so it was much easier for me then to explore it more and to test myself, because I started putting requests out sort of on, do you remember you used to get a lot of message boards on the internet on various websites before we had Facebook and things like that. And I would invite people to send me a photograph of their animal for me to do a reading. And, you know, I was trying to approach people really all over the world, had a lot of responses from America and France and Belgium, because I needed to be convinced, I suppose, that this was really coming from the pets, not from me. And I thought, well, if I'm looking at somebody's animal in America, there is no way I can possibly know anything about that person. I've never met them before. I couldn't have accidentally overheard a conversation in my local pet shop or anything. It removed the doubt, because I think not only with pet psychic work, but any mediumship work or psychic work, we can often doubt ourselves considerably, and we do get this self-doubt come in. So I tested myself over quite a number of months. And the surprising thing was that when I was emailing the person back or having a phone call and going through my results and findings, people were saying, well, how can you possibly know that? You know, that is accurate. You know, they were validating information about their pets. You know, I might have talked about how they acquired their pet, or health issues that the vet had picked up on, or previous surgeries, or background information. And it was time and time again. So I went into it then with removing those elements of doubt and thinking, no, I can help people with their animals. And I had a saddlery business at the time. And when I had my third child, I couldn't sort of keep my horses. I've got 3 horses at the time. And babies and horses don't really mix. As soon as I got to the field to feed my horses, I'd got my daughter in the car. She'd wake up and start crying. And I thought the best thing to do really is find them good homes so that they have a better life, really. Not that I didn't look after them perfectly well. Of course I did. But I was thinking ahead. And I started selling the saddlery off because I'd accumulated so much over many, many years. And people had said, oh, have you got this kind of bit? Have you got this, that and the other? And it turned into a business at the time. And what would happen, people would come to me and purchase saddlery, but I would be talking to them about their horse and say, well, I believe your horse needs the dentist. So I think you need to sort that out first before you buy a new bit or a different noseband for your bridle to help overcome the issue that you've got. And often I'd say, next time you come, bring a photograph with you and let me have a look. And kind of word got around that I was like some kind of pet psychic, and just go and see Beth, take the picture of your pet with you. And people stopped buying the saddlery. They were just turning up with their pictures of their animals for me to read and give information. And then I ended up on the Richard and Judy show on Channel 4 in about 2005, I think it was, because I was then trying to help people who'd got missing animals and trying to track them through a psychic method. And that hit the headlines. And basically then just things gathered speed. And when I was doing the readings and helping people with their animals, what then started happening was I would get information for the person. It might be a prediction. I might say, have you just handed your notice in at work? Because the animal would be showing me things that were going on in the household. And I realised that not only can animals have a telepathic communication between a person and the animal, there was telepathy going on. But then I realised that animals know so much about us and our lives and what has happened to us in the past, what's going on now, but also what's coming up in the future. And then I delved into oracle cards, and I thought I need to sort of do an animal reading or a reading, for people. So I tried to split the two up. But sometimes what happens is that the two things kind of mix together. So I might be doing a reading for somebody about their cat or dog or whatever. And then I might start then talking to them about their lives and where they go from here. Because I think animals are tremendous healers, and I look back on my life, Anne, and when I've been through really difficult times, I've always turned to my pets, not just my family for support, but my pets have been there in a healing capacity. And I do believe that most people that love their animals talk to them physically and maybe even telepathically and mentally. And I don't know whether you've had any pets, Anne, but I'm sure you may have done, and you've probably done exactly that. When you said, I'm just popping out to the shops now, or, oh, I've had a really bad day and this has gone on and that has gone on, and you've offloaded to them as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's just our parameters within our mind and our conditioning that has really stopped us from realising that this is real and a thing. And if you just remove those boundaries, there's a whole amazing world there to be tapped into.
That is such a brilliant story of a very quick summary of life events for you so far. And I know you haven't mentioned half of the things that you've done, but that's just very, very interesting about how your psychic side with those animals began to evolve and how it unfolded over time. So tell me something. Sorry, listeners, you're going to have to put up with some traffic going past my window from time to time, so do forgive me. But just going back there, Beth, you talked about animals. When you communicate with them, you can hear their voices in your mind and then pictures come. So explain what that voice sounds like. Is that your own voice in your head? Does it sound animal-like? What are the pictures? What kind of things do they tell you? What do they say?
Well, it does sound often like my own voice. And the only way I can liken it, really, if you're reading a book and you're reading that to yourself, you have your own voice in your mind. You don't have the author's voice in your mind, but you haven't written those words, So that's how I sort of explain it. And what I believe is happening is that we've got a part of our brain that is telepathic and also psychic. And I believe that when we have the intention of communicating with a pet and we quieten our mind and we allow things to come in, our brain recognises it, but it recognises the animal's messages and language, but it's got to turn it into something that we can understand. So it uses our senses. So we will get a feeling. So, for instance, let's just say your dog has got a bad back. You might suddenly get a twinge in your own back, just to give that message of what's going on. You might get a feeling about something, like an emotion. So you might think, oh, my cat feels really happy today because when I'm linking in, I feel all uplifted, or vice versa. You may get a feeling of sadness or anxiety. But also that works with pictures and words. So the words will come in and it will be like you're thinking about something, but you don't know why you're thinking about it because you weren't necessarily thinking about it before. And if I said to everybody, if you could imagine now the colour of your front door and walking up to your door and what it looks like, you would instantly start to get a picture in your mind, don't you? So a picture starts to build. And that's how it feels when you communicate with animals, that a picture emerges in your mind, but you don't know why you're thinking it. So often if I'm communicating and I will put a question out there, for instance, it might be, show me something that you like to do. I might get a picture of a dog jumping over an agility course because that's what they enjoy, for instance. But I wasn't thinking about that before. That image has just literally popped in. So you have to really sort of start analysing what words come into your mind, what pictures are there, what feelings come within your own body. So consequently, you're working with clairvoyance, clairaudience, claircognience, clairsentience, just like if you're doing a mediumship or a psychic reading for a person, it feels very similar. So your senses are really there. You may even get a smell or a taste, for instance. And so it's just bringing yourself into that moment and becoming very aware of what is going on within yourself. And once you start to analyse that, and I like to write things down, I just think, oh, I'll just write that word down or that phrase down or describe the picture. And as you're going with that kind of flow, it can often increase. And it's a two-way thing. So you can pose a question, you can receive an answer. So I find it, when I started then doing the mediumship and having people that had passed away come through, I was also getting animals that had passed away and come through as well. So I think that it's very, very closely linked. And I think that's because you're using that same part of your mind and your brain. So I hope that makes sense, Anne.
Yeah, that's really brilliant. And I know that we jumped on Zoom together for a pre-interview quick chat just to get to know each other, which was really lovely. I treasure that time we had. And I know you said that it might be possible for me to bring a photograph along. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but I don't mind. Ask you. I actually took a photograph of my dog Phelan this morning, who is a Yorkshire Terrier.
Yes.
And I wonder if I share it on the screen with you now, because just to let everybody know who's listening, Beth and I are talking over Zoom. If I was to share that photograph with you, could you, instead of giving me a personal reading for my dog, perhaps you could talk through the process of what you're doing so that people listening can see, okay, I'm now feeling into this, or I'm now asking this question. Do you think that would work?
Yes, absolutely. And if you could show me that photo, because I've already got something going on that I need to talk to you about as soon as you mention Phelan's name.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, hold on. I've shared incorrectly. Hold on. Let me just try
again.
I shared a portion of the screen, which is no good. God, you think I've never done this before? Let me see. Desktop. Here we go.
But you don't always have to have a photo. You could have a good description or be with the animal in person. I can see Phelan. What an absolute beautiful soul. Oh. Now, you can get impressions as soon as you look at the picture, or you even say the name of your dog. And if they've got like something very strong that they want to communicate, sometimes that can come in first. And as soon as you were telling me about Phelan, I instantly felt like I'd just bitten something really hard in my mouth and my teeth were crunching. And, sometimes if somebody talks to you about going to the dentist and their teeth go on edge, like you get that psychological sort of feeling. And I was like, oh, my teeth have all gone on edge, and I have to go with that immediately. So I think I'm not a vet, obviously, and I have to work within the Veterinary Act, so I can't make a prognosis or a diagnosis. But I would be inclined to suggest that maybe that's an area of the body that Phelan may have got some issues with or had previous issues with. So just so that you know about that, Anne, I think is important straight away.
Okay, that's great. And thank you very much for that. I don't know about that, but I'll go and have a look and just see.
I would just be aware of it for me to get that real feeling. So one of the first things that's happening is a feeling for me.
Eye-Opening Moments podcast are real-life stories of adversity, encounters, and perspectives. They are moments that can lift your spirits, give you some food for thought, or move you. For the introspective mind that likes to reflect, discover, and find solutions or meaning in a complex life, listen to Eye-Opening Moments podcasts.
Yeah. So, and where does that feeling come? Does that come into your own teeth, or how did you pick that up from Phelan?
Immediately, like it felt like my teeth were on edge, or I'd bitten onto something. So, when you have a memory of a dental thing, often it puts your teeth on. Oh, you can only describe it as your teeth are on edge.
Yes.
Or somebody says to you, "Oh, I went to the dentist yesterday." You go, "Ooh."
Yeah,
that kind of thing. So your body's an instrument, and so to pick that up is what I need to do. The other thing, because Phelan talks to me more about like immediately about their body, and I almost feel like I want to put my finger in my ear to make myself hear, and so there may be some something ear related there. So again, these are things that you can be using to check or chat to your vet about. I feel that when I look at Phelan and I, and be aware of the images that come into your mind, is that almost like running around in a circle. I'm going mad. I'm going in a circle. I want to whiz round like mad. And I get those impressions. And then sometimes you'll hear like names of people, and I get the name Pam or Pat. So I need to share that with you. So it might be somebody who's established, but if not, look out for that person coming in, because animals are very good at knowing what's coming up for you as well. I get a very loving, affectionate feel, but also there's a feeling of I like my own space and I want to take myself off and be alone. And then I can see, and sometimes I'll see things like the name Gary or Gavin. I can see GA in my mind being drawn, so I have to put that over to you. It's like how do I explain this? I can see an image, and the image is like an operation scar on the side. So I don't know if that's for them or somebody's just gone through that or there is an awareness from your dog about that situation. It's not a prediction for the future, because often I'll know if it's already happened, or I get a feeling that it's coming up.
Well, let me just give you some feedback here as we go through. So the whizzing around, for sure, she does that. She's been doing it very, very recently, just going round and round in circles, which is quite funny. And the operation scar is me, because I had an appendix out donkeys years ago. But that scar, that operation scar, is actually starting to twinge a little bit and has been quite twingy.
Oh, right.
So that's very interesting.
Well, she's very linked to you, Anne. So she's going to pick up on things that maybe are on your mind, or that you are thinking about, or sometimes they'll be showing me things that you are planning or hoping to achieve. And so animals know an awful lot about ourselves as well as themselves, which I always find that very, very fascinating, because they can be helping us with those predictions, because they can be guiding us. I mean, no animal or any spirit that you may encounter within your life or work will tell you what to do. You know, it's not about a yes or a no, or I need to make a decision, so this. But I must admit, whenever I've got decisions to make, and I know this may sound really crazy, I do consult with my pets telepathically for their guidance and opinion. That doesn't mean that I'm going to base it upon that, but it's just like talking to a friend and getting some other perspective on something. So often I'm seeing things that would be favourable for somebody to explore. And as I pose that over to your little girl there, she shows me you going into, I know obviously you do your podcast, but she shows me you going into a studio, but it's more filming based than your voice. And it's more official. So I don't know if you've had an invitation for anything, Anne, to be filmed, or you're going to be on a certain channel. But she shows me bright lights of that, and she gives me words in my mind like, be ready, it's coming, it's good, as if all those kind of things is going to be a positive movement forward for you. So I have to give you what comes in. So
it sounds great. I love the sound of it, Beth. And I haven't yet been offered, but there's something inside me that feels like something's coming along those lines. So it's quite interesting you should say that.
Yeah, and that's how she can see ahead. So she's only giving you that. So what I would say is that's preparation. So that, one, it doesn't take us as much with the element of surprise that we're thinking, oh no, or we panic, or we like decline too quickly, or we say yes too quickly. It gives us preparation time to get our head around something. So those kind of messages, I think, are always very useful. She talks also like, I get like Dave or David. She shows me male DA. Again, she gives that with like some importance. And did she have, was there another pet that is no longer on Earth that she would have been with?
There is a pet that she's very close to that is almost about to transition but hasn't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. She's still, the other pet is still here in my house, and but very, very, very old. So there must be an awareness that she has limited time left.
Yes, because it's almost like she is feeling feelings of sadness around that. And animals can love people, and animals can love each other, I believe. And they can be aware of what's going on. And also, if a person passes or an animal passes, they can also experience sadness and grief and go through a process similar to ourselves. And I think that's important to acknowledge and remember, that as you're caring for your other pet there, as they're elderly, and that is also to remember, how does she feel about it, so that we acknowledge that too. And that's really important, that we say, look, I know you're feeling down as well. And so as I believe that as you experience just this mini little reading, it can also really help bond you even closer with your own animals, because it allows you to have an insight into their mind, but also it gives you that element of, I can do this as well, and I can become linked and having these two-way conversations. And I think you're already doing it anyway, Anne, you know.
Thank you so much for going through that for everybody. And also that was lovely for me. It was a lovely bonus. And I think it's very interesting what you say, because I believe we forget to communicate to our pets. We just forget to talk to them and include them as another part of member of our family or member of our social group. We just forget to actually talk to them.
I think you're right. And what's lovely now is that people are becoming so more pet friendly when you go out to a cafe or a pub, now that we're able to do so. And animals are now becoming therapy pets and support pets, and even take your dog to work day and things like that. People are now becoming more open that you can be together in different places and different aspects of what you're doing in your life, and how much the therapeutic side of things is coming, because I think we've all known for a long time that animals are great healers. Of course, you will get animals that can be detection animals for health issues like diabetes, for instance, and things like that. And of course, for many years we've had guide dogs for people who have visual issues, and also people who are deaf and, you know, may have problems with their hearing and things like that. So I think it's becoming a bigger and bigger subject. And a few years ago, I found that beneficial to me was to go and study counselling, because I was talking to people not just about their pets, but about, you know, their lives, and looking at oracle cards and tarot and things like that for them. And often people think, oh, well, that person's psychic, so they know everything there is to know about me. And that isn't the case, as you know. You only know what you're picking up from spirit or what is being shared for, you know, clairvoyantly with you. And often people would then start to disclose things that had gone on for them that were very serious or tragic circumstances in the past. And I wanted to make sure that I handled those things correctly, because I didn't want to say the wrong thing at the wrong time when people were trusting me with confidential information. And so I went off and studied up to level 3 in counselling, because I just felt that really helped my readings and understanding of people and how to listen as well. And as I was doing that on the level 3, we had to go off, Anne, and we had to study like a therapy that would be a counselling therapy. And I searched and thought I would love to know about horses that are giving therapy to people, because I'd seen a programme with Martin Clunes years ago, and he was crying. He was somewhere having this healing with horses, and it brought all these emotions out, and it had stuck in my mind. And I thought, well, I know horses do that. I know about that. And funnily enough, when I researched it, it was called equine assisted therapy, and I wanted to study that to pass my level 3 counselling exam. And there's not that many places that did it. But the very strange thing was that one place that did it was very local to where I lived. It was literally within 4 or 5 miles away. And when I phoned the lady, if I could come and, you know, experience it and write, you know, an essay about it for my exam, where she said she was a field that I used to rent with my own horses some 3 or 4 years ago. And that seemed like a good synchronicity straight away. And I went and experienced for myself this healing and this therapy. And even though I'd had horses for years and years, it was something that blew me away. And so many emotions came up. But one of the first things that happened was that there was a field with about 7 horses and ponies in it. And she says, the horse that you need to work with will just come over to you, will make themselves known to you. And I'm only 5'1", so I've never really had huge horses. But I've always been sort of a bit of a pony person. So in the corner of my eye, I could see these cute little ponies. But it was the great big sort of 17-hand horse that started coming over. And I remember thinking, oh, no, he's huge. What am I going to do with him? And as he made his way over, 2 ponies were in the corner of the field. And from nowhere, they started having a fight. They started biting each other, kicking each other. My instinct was to shout at them and say, stop, but I thought, hang on, that's not up to me. They're not mine. And the lady who was conducting this session, who owned all these horses and ponies, she didn't say anything, or she didn't really react. And I thought, why haven't you shouted at them? What if they get hurt? But I thought that was a bit odd. And then she just said to me, did you notice what happened then? And I said, yeah, big horses coming over, but the 2 ponies are having a fight. And she went, yeah. She said, they're just acting out what's going on in your life at the moment. And I said, well, what do you mean? And she says, well, you're obviously in a bit of a difficult situation, fighting with somebody. And somebody, you need help from another source to get things sorted. And I looked at her and I said, I'm going through a really difficult divorce. And that was also another element that sort of dropped into place, where animals are just tremendous healers and can know when we're going through such difficult times. And that just made my hairs go up, on my arms when she said that. And she said, now you've got to decide who you're going to work with these horses. You're going to go for the pony, or you're going to go for this big horse that has come over to help you. And I said, I am going to go for the big horse, even though I was thinking I wish it was one of the little ponies, because I felt like I could handle that bit easier. And she gave me this halter to put on this big horse. And I've put head collars and halters on horses for hundreds of times. And you know what? I could not fathom out how to put it on him. I'd gone to pot. I'd gone all nervous because of all this thing had played out. She'd already picked up on what was going on in my life. And the horses and ponies knew. And I was like, oh, my God. And I felt like that she must have thought, there's no way this woman could have owned horses before. She didn't know what she's doing.
Sure.
She got, she's all fingers and thumbs. Anyway, we got him out. And then I had to do these tasks. And he had to take his sort of halter off. And he got nothing. We put him in a separate field. And I've got to get him to follow me. I've got to get him to jump over a little jump with me. And those experiences about being autonomous and being independent and allowing things out was so therapeutic. So it had a real tremendous effect on me. But what it also did was made me look at the telepathic side, because not only was I trying to do physical things, trying to get this horse to work with me, I was sending those telepathic thoughts out, asking, could you come and do this with me? And so it took it down a different route. So it could be something that anybody's listening, that they could go off and research about that, because it was just an afternoon, a couple of hours where I experienced that, just because I was studying it for a college course. But the effects of that healing from horses that day were tremendous, and it really helped me look at things from a new perspective. So I think there's so much potential that we've not even tapped into with not just our animals, but with other animals as well. So for people to be very open-minded and really explore things is something that I would encourage you with. And also anybody that's doing psychic work, I know many of your listeners are clairvoyants and work in this industry too, that maybe to think about that concept of learning more about counselling can also enhance your work and your ability to do the very best for somebody within your sessions, you know, because I know from personal experience, it helped me because not everybody needs a reading. Some people just need to be heard or understood or referred to somebody that can really be a specialist in a certain area. So it opened my mind even further, and I believe helped me have a stronger link to spirit.
Yeah, that's amazing. I would absolutely love to go and have equine assisted therapy. Looking it up on the internet the minute we finished. So Beth, where did you go then to move into mediumship with the work that you do?
Well, I think that it started off with the pets, and then I was linking in one day and I had a gentleman that I was aware that a man was stepping forward. It's like I could see an image of a man. I knew he'd passed away and I could describe him. And I said to the person, I said, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but have you got a man in spirit? And I described the condition of how he passed, what he looked like. And she said, yeah, that's my granddad. And I thought, oh my goodness, I've brought somebody through now. And it was almost like I'd opened the door. And once I'd opened that door the door didn't really shut, you know, unless obviously, you know, you open up and you close down during your sessions, of course. But it took it onto another level. And once that happened, I realised that I was able to communicate with people that are in spirit as a medium. And also I was so drawn to oracle cards and tarot, which I've got a collection of over 150. I absolutely love them. I did actually.
Have you? Where do you keep them all?
In a cupboard. I might be able to just turn the camera and show you some of the cupboard there.
Wow. Okay, I'm looking at a beautiful wooden cupboard with glass fronted doors and many shelves stacked full of tarot and oracle cards.
And I did actually do my own cards a couple of years ago. I did my own set called Live Your Best Life Oracle deck because I so love cards. And so I started using those. And what happened as well was because I trained in Reiki and become a Reiki master, that's another element that I'm very passionate about. I went to a psychic fair many, many years ago, probably, again, it was all sort of happening for me around 2004, 2005, when I really got into it. And at this psychic fair, it was in a function room of a pub. There was a stage and the lady said, you can have this stage and put your Reiki bed and you can do some demonstrations of Reiki and like little taster sessions of Reiki for like 10 or 15 minutes. Anyway, I just bought a pack of unicorn cards by Doreen Virtue, which was my very first pack that I bought. And I put them in my bag. I'd only use them for myself and my family at the time. And this lady came over to me and she said, oh, I hope you don't mind. She said, I've come over for a psychic reading. And I said, I'm doing Reiki, you know. And she went, no, that medium over there. I went to her table and her name was Glenda, actually, the medium. And she said, you don't need me. You need that lady over there to do your reading. And I thought, what do I do now? You know, I don't want to say no. And Glenda has sent her over, and I was a very much. I'd seen Glenda in action, who's a brilliant medium, so I knew if she'd said it, it was correct. So I sort of thought, well, I haven't brought those unicorn cards in my bag, so I said, okay, come and sit down. I'll get my cards out. And I thought, well, I'm really excited now to know if I can do this reading for somebody who I don't know with cards. I've done it for family and friends and myself, you know. And I got in my mind, put your cards out in a circle and put 2 or 3 in the middle as like central cards to look at the heart of the reading. So I did this for this lady, and I turned the first card over in the middle and started interpreting it. And I went round, I think I'd put about 12 cards out, went through it all. I picked up on certain situations that she was going through, and that she was single and she was hoping to get into a new relationship, and she'd had quite a volatile previous relationship, and all different things were going on. And then I sort of come up for air, and I said to her, I hope you understood all that and that was okay. And I remember thinking, oh my God, what's she going to say? You know, I was really worried. And she went, that was the best reading I've ever had. She said, that was brilliant. And I was like, oh, thank God for that. And after that, I was okay. And I thought, but I think if Glenda hadn't put me on the spot, would I ever have taken that sort of step to having that? I don't know, sometimes I find with what I do, often I'm just ending up being put on the spot, and I think, come on, Beth, you can do it. You've got to do it. Somebody believes in you. Somebody's given you an opportunity. Now take the opportunity. Yeah. And of course, that has come very strong over the last 2 years, where I was contacted by somebody about had I got an interest in animal communication story where something could come true. And it was somebody who was writing a newspaper article, and I explained about a lady called Caroline had got a horse called Fred. I'd done a reading, and Fred had predicted that she'd meet somebody who was a sailor, and that he lived by the water, and that she'd know he was the man for her at the time because he'd got a big scar on his leg. So I was telling this guy all of this. And he said, well, can I contact this lady to check out the story? And I said, yeah. And so he did. And then it ended up in newspapers, online. They made a video about it. And then I ended up on This Morning, you know, talking about the story with Caroline. We were in the field with the horse and with this gentleman that she'd met. And then it led to me having 4 appearances, doing viewers phone in, and it was just amazing. But what had happened prior to that, Anne, was that I had got into manifestation in a big way, and law of attraction. I'd gone all down the route before of The Secret, but I wanted to delve in even further. And I'd found this method about doing a special manifestation technique where you would imagine what you wanted to happen on a big screen, and then you would, in your mind, get the answer, how to sort of align yourself with the universe to enable the universe for it to come about. And then you had to have the 3rd screen where, if it comes true, how you would react. So I was testing out that. The first thing I do was ask my self-published book, Life by Numbers, to be a #1 Amazon seller. And I'd gone down every route to try and push. Literally 24 hours after doing that manifestation technique, it did become an Amazon bestseller. And so then...
Congratulations on that. That's amazing, by the way.
Thank you so much. And then me being me, thinking, well, what if that was just a coincidence that it happened? Let me ask for something even more. And I actually did it again. And I said, can I go onto TV? Can you get me on TV? And I thought, but if it does happen, then I'll have to see it through. And I did it again. And a few days later, that gentleman contacted me for the story, and it led to me going on to This Morning. And then I went on to Roman and Martin Kemp's Sunday Best programme one Sunday morning, which was amazing. Brilliant. But I'd done it all through this manifestation technique. So I had to then go and do these things, which of course you can imagine was very nerve-wracking. But I thought, no, I've got to do it because I'd asked for it to come true, and it had come true. Yeah. So that's another thing that I'm passionate about and I do believe in. And then I asked to have, again, I did it again. I wanted to do a pet psychic book, but I wanted it to be a publishing deal as opposed to self-publishing. I asked for that, and consequently that came about. So I'm always mindful now what I'm going to ask for, because if it does come true again, you have got to, because it's been honoured to you and you've been placed in alignment with it, is about seeing it through. So I always think, if I'm going to ask for something, I've got to do it. So I'm always
what's the
mindful.
Secret, Beth?
Well,
what is your manifestation secret?
One is to not really ask for something that you necessarily want or necessarily need. It's about aligning yourself to your true purpose. So if your true purpose is wanting to help other people through your pet psychic work or whatever it may be, if you're passionate about that, that is who you truly are, and you can share that message with others. For me, it seems to have worked. I haven't gone down the route of asking for money or a lottery win, because I don't think that would be ethically correct. And I'm not fueled by money anyway. I'm more passionate about how I could help somebody, and my reward would be that I've made a difference, hopefully, to somebody's life.
So as an example then, Beth, I might, because you've already said that Phelan feels that there's bright lights in a studio coming possibly to me. So, and that's what I sort of feel. So, and that would only be to share the sort of interviews that I'm doing on the podcast live in a television format.
Yes.
So to help other people basically, and to spread knowledge and help people with a curious mind to explore this whole paranormal topic in a serious and scientific fashion. So if I wanted to manifest that, what do I do? Envisage that scene happening, or what do I do?
Well, I found somebody who has got a company called Mind Valley Vision Accounting, and I just happened to come across him on Facebook. And you get sponsored things, don't you, on Facebook? And I dismissed most of them, but I looked at him and I thought, that man's the real deal. He can teach me something. And so I started going on YouTube and looking him up and listening to his podcast. And he started, you know, when you can sign up to these free masterclasses on Facebook. And I just thought, I'm just going to sign up to this because I had a feeling. I just thought, this is the real deal. He's not somebody who's just after your money, or I don't know. I just trusted my instinct, which serves me well at the best of times. And I just thought, no, go with it. And I looked him up and I signed up for his masterclass about manifestation and aligning. And I did it. And his technique is what I followed, called the 3 screens technique, where you go into a deep meditation, basically. And he talks you through how to do that. And I'm sure most people can find that on YouTube, or go on his app or his podcasts and look him up. And I did that. And then you imagine like 3 big screens. And for me, it was like 3 big television screens on the wall. And you had to kind of look at them in your mind, like you're looking at them above your head, really. And not just on the same level. You sort of tilt your eyes to look at them. And I did that, and I got my eyes closed. And the first thing was thinking about like a problem that you wanted to solve. And my problem on the first time I did it was, well, I've got this book. It's never been to Amazon #1. I want to solve that problem. And that was what I imagined. And then he takes you onto the second screen. And it was like, well, it's like being open to the answer to that, so that you are not just waiting for it to happen, but you're aligning yourself with the universe, and you're taking some level of action just to say that you're on board and you're ready for it to happen. So as I went on to that second stage of the meditation, the answer is supposed to come into your mind. And as I thought, well, how's this going to happen? The answer that came into my mind was, do a special offer. And I remember thinking, well, I've done loads of special offers on my book and it's never worked. But I thought, okay, that's the answer. Do a special offer. That's the answer. And then on the third screen, it was like, how are you going to feel when it comes true? So I thought, well, I'm going to be like running around, cheering. My book's number 1. This is amazing. I'm going to be telling all my family and my friends. So in my mind, I was rejoicing, celebrating, making a big song and dance over it, that kind of thing. and so I thought, okay, so I did that. And I thought, well, it's not about just waiting for the universe to produce these results. It's to really show that you're taking it seriously, that you're taking some level, you're taking some part in it. So I thought, I'll do a special offer with my book. So basically, what came into my mind, I did like a Canva post, and I just put, buy my book on Amazon, send me a screenshot that you've purchased it, and I'll email you a mini reading into your inbox. I did that. So I didn't really expect anything. And all of a sudden, people kept sending me these screenshots. And I was thinking, oh, my God, I've got to email them a mini reading. And before I knew it, there was just absolutely loads of messages in my inbox on Instagram and on Facebook. And then I had to sit for about a week sending all these little mini readings out to them, which I hadn't, I thought, oh, it'll only be a few people. Consequently, it just grew. And then the book, literally, because people had purchased it sort of straight away within that 24 hours of posting that request out, it came about very quickly. The week following, I had to do what I said I'd do and send them the information that I'd promised, which of course I did. So very quickly, that book went to number 1. I think it was only about 24 hours or something. And then I kept refreshing it because it got to number 7 and then it got to number 6. And I remember thinking, what if it only gets like to number 2 and that's it? It didn't quite make it. But anyway, at 1:00 in the morning, I refreshed it and it had reached number 1.
It's just amazing.
Oh my God, it's actually worked. And then I thought the third screen was that I've got to celebrate it. But everybody was in bed. It was 1:00 in the morning. And I thought, well, I've got to see it through. So I just woke everybody up. I just started cheering again. I phoned my son at 1:00 in the morning to tell him. That's exactly how I did it. And then, of course, I went back in and did it again for the TV thing. And then, of course, this guy called Dill contacted me from a newspaper about a story. So I didn't think it was connected to the TV. And of course, my part was then played in it when I checked Dill out to make sure he was a real reporter and it wasn't some scam sort of message. Yes, he was real, and he was from Birmingham, so he wasn't a million miles away from me. And so obviously I chatted to him. And then he said, can we come make a film of you and this lady? So we agreed that was all going to take place. So I was working with the universe. So, I went along with it. Of course, never imagined it'd be on the TV. I just thought it was going to be a newspaper thing. And then, of course, this morning picked it up, contacted them, and then they phoned and said, any chance you'd be on this morning on Tuesday? And I was like, it's come true.
It's amazing.
So I didn't just sit and kind of wait. When something came in, I acted, but nevertheless, I didn't contact TV people myself. Do you know what I mean? I didn't, say, oh, would you like me to come on your TV show? I didn't take that approach, but I put it out there, went with the method, and this is what has happened. So I can only say, give it a go. It worked for me. It can work for you, So there you go.
I just think it's such a great story, Beth. And I think my great takeaway from just talking to you over this past hour is your beautiful trust that you have in your own innate awareness, psychic awareness and intuition, and surrendering to it and accepting it as part of your life. I just think that's a real takeaway for me.
Oh, thank you so much. And I do trust in it, and I do believe it. I've tested it. I haven't just tried to tell people this is real without, going through my own testing of it and experiences. And what I do now, Anne, which I'm very passionate about, is I do my own radio show, which I've been doing for over 10 years. And I'm now on Pulse Talk Radio Wednesdays between 6 and 8 p.m. I have some fascinating guests, which I'm hoping you'll come on and be a guest, because we love you on there. I do free readings on there for people so that they can experience having a reading themselves. It's only short. It's only for a couple of minutes, but it can give believers some assistance and some validation. But it also gives an aspect that if you've never had a reading before, or maybe you're on the fence, or maybe you're just not sure about things, you can experience it and make your own mind up about it, you know.
Yeah. And where will people find Pulse Talk Radio, Beth?
It's online. So we've got a website, pulsetalkradio.com. You can ask Alexa to play Pulse Talk Radio as well. And it may be on some other, I know it's on TuneIn. And I think if you've got an Android phone, you can get the Pulse Talk Radio app, I think. But usually people go on the website or ask Alexa to play it. So, you know, if anybody wants to contact me, I've got a website, psychicbeth.com. You can contact me that way, or send me an email to info@psychicbeth.co.uk, and I can give you all the details of that. If anybody wants to join in and listen, or if anybody would like to be a guest, you know, always open to anybody sharing what they do on there. We have a lovely group of people that are regular listeners, and always welcome new people as well, and just love you to come on, Anne. It would be fantastic.
I would love to. We'll set a date up after this.
You.
It would be amazing. Thank you very much for the invitation. That's incredibly kind of you. So Beth, just before we say goodbye to you, just remind people where they can buy your books. And I know this new beautiful book that you've got coming out is available from April 14th.
Yes, it's on a pre-order at the moment, so you can already go and purchase it, and then it will be sent to you as soon as it's released. Amazon.com or Amazon.co.uk. If you just put in Beth Lee Crowther, everything you need to know to become a pet psychic, it'll come up. Or you could just Google it, you know, because W.H. Smith, Waterstones, and several other book sellers. Some of them are UK based, some of them are, I think, Australia, USA, New Zealand, from what I can see when I've Googled it myself. So I think it's pretty much available on a pre-order.
And you've got your other book, Life by Numbers, as well.
Life by Numbers is already available immediately, and the best way to purchase that is on Amazon, or you can contact me directly if you want me to send you a copy, and that's $9.95 on Amazon. And Life by Numbers was really designed because we often see repeated patterns of numbers when we're out and about. And again, with my belief in what the universe can do to help and support us, I was asking the universe to show me a relevant number to help me when I wasn't very well. I'd got chronic anemia, and I was recovering from that. And I'd always had this idea of writing a numbers book, because I've always believed there's a message behind each number. And I know there's a lot of angel numbers books out there, which are brilliant. But this book is more about looking at your life. And when I was doing the radio, when I used to be on a station called The Bridge in Stourbridge in the West Midlands, sometimes we'd get too many people trying to get a reading. They'd be physically ringing in, whereas the show I've got now, I just get people to text in a message, and they'd be trying to ring in. And I used to think, well, I can't get to everybody. And this book was really to give people a little psychic reading, because you can just pick that up and look out for a number being presented to you. Maybe you've said to the universe, I don't know what to do. I'm looking to enter into a new relationship, or do I hand my notice in at work, or what do I do about X, Y, and Z? And you can put that thought out and then ask the universe to show you a relevant number that day. Or you could just flick through the book and land at a certain number, or a number might just pop into your head. And when you then look in the book at the explanation of that number, that is to guide you on that question that you've asked. Or you might just use it and say, what would help me today? And you might, often I see registration numbers. Like the other day, I saw my initials, ELC, which consequently is an early learning centre. It's Elizabeth Lee Crowther.
That's great.
I always think that when I see it. And the number was 54 on the register. So I've got to go home, look at number 54. You know, what does that mean for me? I've just seen my initials on somebody's car registration. So it might be something like that gets your attention. Or a lot of people say, oh, every time I look at the clock, it's 222 or it's 444. You know, you start noticing patterns. And what you can do, if you get more than one number that day, you can put them all together to get a longer reading. So there's 1 to 1,000 numbers in there with an explanation for each one. And I just felt that it was just a way of you giving yourself a reading very easily and very quickly.
Yeah, it's a wonderful book. You're very kind to send it to me before this interview.
You're very welcome.
It's wonderful to have as a reference, like you say, a very handy reference to use on a daily basis. It's brilliant.
Thank you very much. And it's nice if you don't know what to buy somebody sometimes. It's quite a good little gift for somebody.
Yeah.
And it's a way that if you're just curious about psychic things, it's sort of an easy way in. Or if you're very established with it, anybody can pick it up and use it, really. So that was how all that came about. And yeah, I was really lucky because a lady helped me do it, and called Alexa Witten, who'd got Compass Publishing and the Book Refinery. Because although I'd written the book, I was like, well, what do I do with this now? I didn't know how to put it together. So she was very, very instrumental in doing that. So I think there's so many opportunities these days if you want to write, and there's a lot of people that can help you. Or you can even, if you're sort of internet and technical savvy, you can go onto Amazon, onto something called KDP, and you can register with them and you can download all their tools and you can write your own book for free, and they'll give you a free ISBN number. So there is nothing to stop somebody getting their message out there, you know. So yeah, that's how it's gone for me. So it'd be interesting to see what happens next.
I can't wait to see how your life unfolds. It's just so lovely the way that you just wait for things to align. You put things into process in your mind. This is how I'd like things to unfold. You hand it over to the universe to do the heavy lifting, and then you just accept your part that you then accept. I now need to do this. I now need to do this. It's amazing. It's been brilliant talking to you, Beth. So brilliant.
Well, thank you so much for allowing me to come onto your show. I've loved your show, and I've listened to your episodes, and I just think you're amazing. And the way that you inform people and teach people in a clear and concise manner about how they can use psychic techniques and get results themselves is what attracted me to your podcast in the first place. So I've been quite a fan of yours for quite some time, Anne. And
so nice,
I must say, the other day I was listening to your episode with the tarot, how to interpret the tarot and all the history of the tarot. And I've learnt so much from you. I really have. So thank you for that.
Oh, bless you. That's really kind of you. Thanks, Beth. Well, wishing you the very, very best over the next little while. Let's maybe hook up again next year on this show and just see what's unfolded for you. And I'll let you know if my TV studio has unfolded for me.
It will.
And I look forward to coming on your show. And thank you so very much for sharing all your knowledge. I know people are going to get so much out of this episode.
Thank you, Anne. It's been great. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much to my wonderful guest, Beth Lee Crowther. Please do visit her website, www.psychicbeth.com to check out all the courses that she is offering. And don't forget to purchase a copy of her incredible book, Everything You Need to Know to Become a Pet Psychic, How to Master the Secrets of Animal Communication. And it comes out on April 14th, but it is available now to pre-order on Amazon. There are show notes for this episode on my website, anntheato.com, plus a full transcript. So please do go there to the podcast section to pick those up. And you can also sign up for my newsletter, which comes out on the day of each new podcast release. So that's twice a month. And then you won't miss out on any episodes. Or you can sign up to one of my classes. I run a weekly development circle where we practice psychic and mediumship techniques, and I also run a new class. It's a weekly scrying circle. It's so exciting. It's where I teach ancient divination techniques so that we begin to learn how to read wax, read water, treacle, sand and stones and bones and all manner of things. So do sign up for my newsletter, anntheato.com, and you can be the first to know of all the exciting things that I am up to. Don't forget to have some great conversations with your pets this week, and do let Beth and I know how you get on. Wishing you a wonderful couple of weeks. My name is Ann Théato, and thank you for listening to Psychic Matters.